Hey guys, my name is Chad, and in this video I'm going to be installing macOS on this AMD PC. Now, I'd just like to mention that this isn't a tutorial, as the installation process will differ for everybody depending on their hardware, though this will definitely help anyone looking to hack their AMD machine. For specs, we have a GTX 950, an AMD FX 6100, and an Asus motherboard, and for those looking for the model number of this motherboard, it will show up on the screen right around here.
So first we're going to have to create a bootable USB installer, though I won't be showing that in this video because I have a whole separate tutorial on how to do that, which I will leave a link to in the description below. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hook everything up and see if we can get to the installer on our first boot. Though that is after we configure the BIOS, of course. So the most important thing here is the SATA configuration. We're going to want to change that from IDE to AHCI. So once the SATA ports are configured, we can go ahead and exit and save and boot into the boot menu.
So once the computer starts up, I'm going to boot into the boot menu by pressing F8 and boot from the USB flash drive. I'm going to then select the flash drive and boot with NV disable and verbose mode. And for those who don't know why we're booting with NV disable, it's because we don't have the NVIDIA drivers installed yet. Alright, so unfortunately we are stuck in an infinite loop and we're going to have to apply a USB fix real quick to even get into the installer, so let's go ahead and do that real quick.
Alright, so in addition to preparing your USB, you're going to want to install Shane's Sierra USB fix and Rehab Man's generic USB 3 Kext. So let's go ahead and open Kext Wizard, select our USB installer, go to installation, and just drag and drop all the Kext we want to install. We're going to want to install them to System Library Extensions. Alright, once that's done, let's go ahead and just repair all our permissions. Alright, so now that that's done, we can go ahead and try booting into the installer again.
So now that we've applied a USB fix, let's hope we don't get stuck in an infinite loop and that we can boot into the installer. So at this point we're definitely experiencing different results, though will it boot into the installer?
Alright, so we were able to make it into the installer, though the mouse does not work, just the keyboard does. So we'll see how that plays out. Alright, so now the installer is telling us that this version of Mac cannot be installed on this computer. So I'm going to go find out why it's doing that and find a fix for it. Alright, so we were getting that compatibility error because our system definition was set to a model that is not supported by Sierra. So we can use Chameleon Wizard to go ahead and set that to a model that is compatible. So now let's just swap out the Mac Pro 3.1 system BIOS for the Mac Pro 5.1 and just hit save, and now we can exit out of Chameleon Wizard and eject our USB installer.
So it is possible to do this without another computer, but since I have another computer and I don't have access to a mouse in the Sierra installer, I'm just going to go ahead and plug the hard drive from the AMD machine into my main PC. You can see it there, I just plugged it in and dropped it in there. So with our AMD hard drive plugged in, I'm just going to go ahead and open up disk utility and just erase it like I would any other drive I'm going to install macOS on.
Okay, so formatting the hard drive made it so that we can only see our USB in the bootloader, which is okay. We're going to boot with the same boot flags, and this time we should be able to actually install Sierra. Alright, so now let's go ahead and install Sierra, assuming that this is going to work. Tab button here. Go ahead and agree. There we go, we can select our Mac hard drive.
So now we've officially installed macOS Sierra on our AMD PC, though it won't boot just yet. Now that the Sierra installation is complete, I have gone ahead and plugged the hard drive from the AMD PC back into my main PC so we can go ahead and prepare it just like we did with the USB installer. So the first thing I'm going to do is copy the kernel over to the hard drive. I'm going to go to System, Library, Kernels, and just go ahead and drag and drop that. And the next thing we're going to do is install the bootloader, which is in this case Enoch. Now we're going to copy over the extra folder just like we did with the USB installer. Okay, so all that's left is to apply the USB fix, which is something you've seen before in this video. Now we can go ahead and repair permissions just for good measure, and that should be it. We should be good to go. Go ahead and plug that back into the AMD PC and hopefully it will boot. So until we get the web drivers installed, we're going to boot with the usual boot flags, except we're also going to boot in safe mode, and we're going to set use kernel cache to no. So at this point we've just made it to the setup and I can move my cursor, which is a really good sign. So let's go ahead and set this up real quick. So now that the setup is complete, I've gone ahead and created a post folder on the USB installer and put all the drivers and kex on there. So we're going to go ahead and start by installing the NVIDIA web drivers so we can stop having to boot into safe mode. After installing the web drivers, I was able to boot without safe mode, though the graphics acceleration did not get enabled, which I will figure that out later. For now, I'm going to start by installing the Voodoo HDA, which is for audio, and then I'm going to get the Ethernet kex installed. So now I'm installing the Realtek Ethernet kex for my system. I got this from the Multibeast installer, though you guys can find it on GitHub or any other Hackintosh website. So now just about everything's working except for the NVIDIA graphics acceleration. I can't get that enabled with Enoch, so we're going to go ahead and try to install Clover. Hopefully that's not too hard. So I've configured Clover so that we don't have to boot with any boot flags. Well, we technically do, they're just in the configuration file, so we don't have to explicitly type them every time. Alright guys, so I'm really happy to say that our Sierra installation is finally complete. It is fully functional. Installing Clover and getting it working was not the easiest thing ever. That's why you didn't see it in this video. It actually took a while, at least at first. It shouldn't take too long with some guidance. That's why I'm probably just going to create another video, another tutorial on how to do so, or just make a guide on AMD OS X. Alright guys, so that's about it for this video. If I helped you out, I'd really appreciate it if you could subscribe. And if you guys have any issues doing this, I'd highly recommend checking out amdosx.com. So yeah, thanks for watching guys.